Good evening. You know, it's hard to stand up after an introduction like that, say he's lost for words. I'm never lost for words, and then you get up here and I'm lost for words. But I hope that what I have to share with you today are words worth my saying and your hearing. Also, before I start too, Brother Felton and I must be twins because we're both 85 years old, and we're Williams. All right, how you doing, brother? Life for me ain't been no golden stair, and I know that there are some of you who know what that's from and who that is from. But really, life for me has been wonderful. I so often say to my daughters that I just can't believe some mornings when I get up and look in the mirror and there's this guy looking back at me, and to realize that he's been looking back at me for 85 years. It's just unbelievable. And I hope that I will always have that same feeling when I'm 86, 87, 80, because I am going on. You know, life is just too wonderful. I have too many things yet to see. To see my children, one of my daughters is here, to see them continue to grow in many, many ways, to see my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. And I'm just crazy enough to believe that I will see some great-great-grandchildren. And why not? But to give some advice, if there's such a thing, especially to the younger people, it's just to live life to the fullest. And that does not mean just doing anything and whatever thing comes to mind. But there are so many paths that just appear before you as you go through life. And there are paths to things that are not so good and not so happy, but more of them are leading to wonderful, wonderful things in life. And you just have to learn to know the difference and to explore as many of them as you possibly can. Because if you live to be 100, it's still a brief life, and you still have all those millions of things to do. But just in whatever time you have so many opportunities just to pursue them, whether you're 20 or 30 or 40, much more if you're 85 or 90. But even then, life can be wonderful. I know at 85 going on 86, I couldn't imagine imagine having any better time of life than I am having now. And as I say, a lot of it is the blessings of the health and all, and a sound mind most of the time. and of course, I said that once they talked about a sound mind, and somebody reminded me, well, you know, an empty gong has a sound. So, you know, what's this about the sound mind? But I'd like to particularly direct much of what I'm saying to the young and the younger people of today. It's just such a different world in which I grew up, and many of us grew up. But that's true of any time, of any age, because time never moves backwards, so it's always moving forward. But it's just that when you think of the things that help to form you as an individual, and then realize that you are living in a world with all of those things, with that self of you that's been molded, and you're living, sometimes it seems, in the midst of such an alien world in which all of those things and those values that you have grown up with, that you have embraced, just don't seem to fit. And so often you just feel out of place. But there's no such thing as anyone really being out of place, because there's always a place for everyone to use whatever talents that they have, to share whatever knowledge that they have, and to do whatever skills that they have, because there's no end to life, whether it's your life or anyone else's, because life is a force that just goes on beyond the life force when they speak about it, like in movies and that type of thing. But it is a force, and we just have to embrace it like we would a newborn baby. And speaking about newborn babies, you know, it just reminds me of, it makes me think of just a wonderful, wonderful blessing it is to be a parent, to have babies. And I'm just visualizing now, since I was talking about that, my first daughter. And I was at work, and they called and told me my wife had gone into the delivery room. So I was working at Social Security at the time. So I left and rushed over, and I got there. They told me where the maternity ward was, and or the operating room, I suppose. And I went up, and they were just bringing her, coming out of the doctor had him in his arm. And I said, "Is that the Williams baby?" And he said, "Yes." And I got my first look at her. And it was just, I'm sure for many of us who have had children, it's a life-changing moment when you first look and you realize that this is a God creation, first of all, but that you had something, a great deal to do with this new life. But beyond that, and this really thought came to me that very moment, what a responsibility. Oh yes, this beautiful child, but from that moment on, you had a life in your hand and in your plans and in your mind. And it's been a beautiful, wonderful journey to have gone on that path with both of my daughters, because later on I had daughter number 2. And wanted, naturally, as selfishly as most men, I wanted a son. They told me that my time is up, and I can't believe it. I was wondering, what in the world am I going to have to say in that time? But anyway, I hope that I have shared with you some little gems that were of some value, and I thank you very much for your attention.